Call the tree committee to order. I consider this kind of an important meeting. First of all, there is no public comment, I take it. Okay, next order would be minutes of July 16th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second, Shirley, you're muted. All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I would just have one comment, Josh. When the minutes are sent out each time, could you make sure that the people in attendance are listed? Going forward, I think that's important. Okay.
They usually are.
It's right under call to order.
Did I miss it? All right. Anyway. Okay, I think we have a couple of things that are really important. We're into the fall now, or in my mind, we're into the fall. And we haven't replaced the trees at Broad Street. We have 2 trees there. And I think we also talked about the possibility of the tree in front of the bank on Summer Street.
Oh,
I know Bill, who cannot be here, is talking to people in Boston about tree replacements, about what type of tree. But we did discuss this, and Shirley, I think you had opinions on this before. Do you want to give us your opinion again? You're muted, Shirley.
Bench missing.
there you are.
Can you hear us, Shirley?
Hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you now. Yep, go ahead.
Is there a bench missing in the little park? You
Sorry?
can't hear.
You can't. We're talking about replacing the trees on Broad Street. Can you hear me, Shirley?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now I can, yeah. I know, I'm referring to the fact that at our last meeting, I think you had some specific opinions about what trees should go in there on Broad Street.
Pat, do you want to talk about them or do you want me?
Oh, go ahead, Shirley.
Up some possible trees for the 2 missing on Broad Street down by Crispy's Restaurant.
Right.
And what I thought might be appropriate for that area is a crabapple tree. And there are 2 species of crabapple tree that have a nice distinct bloom. One is a very bright red called prairie fire, and the other is a white called sugar thyme, T-Y-M-E. I have the prairie fire and the sugar thyme here at my house, and I've been very impressed with the bloom on them. So I was suggesting them for that Broad Street area.
How large do they get, Shirley?
$200 to $250 per tree.
How large do they get?
They total about 20 to 30 feet high. They're fairly much an intact crown. You can always, if there are low branches, you can always trim the lowest branches off so that they're walkable around them, and etc.
Okay.
Shirley had mentioned those trees to me, and I looked them up, and they do sound like good trees. Because, you know, I've been focused on native as well as pollinators, and they qualify on both of those. The crabapple trees are native to America. I'm not sure about New England, but America. And the fact that they're pollinators is great. And they do, the prairie fire does not make a mess. So that's a real good thing. It doesn't drop its fruit. It just stays on the tree.
What about the root structure? Is that going to be an issue?
One of the things that will be necessary in the planting is to either remove the dirt that's already in there if it's too coarse and sandy and replace it, which would probably be the better thing because over the time it's probably been contaminated with street salt and so on. being sure that we get it balled and wrapped when we first purchase it would mean that it would be contained. And being able to put it into a fresh, well composted bed, if you will, of soil would be a big help to any tree that goes in from now on. It's a street tree.
How does that sound, Paul?
It sounds fine with me. My biggest concern was the fruit, but I understand it doesn't drop the fruit. I just didn't, if it was gonna be a mess of apples everywhere, it didn't make sense to me, but if it's not dropping fruit, then I'm all in.
Yeah, one of the comments I read is it does not make a mess in bold letters, so it sounded good.
Okay.
Again, I didn't catch it, Shirley. How large do these trees get? Can't hear you, Shirley.
Somewhere between 20 and 30 feet.
Right. That's okay, Paul?
I mean, I think 30 feet is pushing the limit, but I've Googled it right now and I'm seeing prairie crab apples. Prairie fire crab apples, 15 to 20 feet, so 30 feet must be the extreme,
And there are no wires on that side anyway.
right? You just don't want to grow into the building or
Right.
pruning, you know.
My only worry is that putting them in the street, in the sidewalk, in those tree pits, is a very harsh environment compared to planting them more in a park setting, school setting. So I think we should definitely consider the tree. My only suggestion for the streetscape would potentially be to cross-reference it on that list that we received from DCR's urban forestry group, who has been really piloting this for years and years and years and sort of knows what can survive in the street. We don't really have many places in Bridgewater that would be a very urban condition besides really our like Central Square and Broad Street. So my only concern would be if it can survive in a street with, lots of pavement and in this particular location. But, and the only other thing I will say, just being involved in projects where we talk about having fruit trees, I suppose like there is the risk that kids could pull them off and be throwing them at cars and stuff, especially because it's like near bars. That would be the only thing, like from a public safety perspective, that has been brought up in a college setting. We've had to be careful about having loose like stones and, fruit that could be used, but hopefully it's public enough environment with enough security around.
Strange you say that, Nicole. I remember growing up in Detroit and pulling crab apples off crabapple trees. Wait a minute, just a stupid question. If the crab apples don't fall off, what happens to them?
They apparently just dry on the tree.
And the new ones grow?
I don't know.
Shirley, can't hear you.
You never notice any crab apples on the ground.
No.
Maybe the birds get to them first.
All right, just Shirley, what are the other trees along Broad Street that have been planted years ago?
We've got a mixture of them, and some of them have been cherry trees that were not very good for that area as a street tree. There are some Sephora japonica trees. Can't say that we have been very attentive to the kinds of trees that would be good for street trees in the past. So I'm a little leery about replacing with the ones that we had in the past.
Okay, and you basically think one of these crabapple trees is the best tree.
Well, I don't know what is the best, but I think it's an appropriate tree, and it has some really bright color, which I don't think hurts in the appearance of the town to have some lively color in the trees.
Yep. And again, just a general question. I think we decided, did we not say that October is the best time to plant?
We would go forward with a planting selection now, anytime from now on through the middle of October would probably be appropriate.
Okay, if you all are agreeable, can we say that Shirley and I'd like to get Bill's opinion before we make a final decision, since he is also looking into it. Can we agree that Shirley and Bill could make the final decision and that their decision we can vote on right now to allocate the money for and get the trees? Does that make sense, or?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Shirley,
You need me to
Okay
get
with
the trees once you have the okay. I know I have access to those funds.
okay. Pat, do you agree to that?
Yes, I do.
All right, then why don't we put that in the form of a motion that that Shirley and Bill will make the final decision on the street trees, and that the money will be allocated from our budget, and that Paul will be able to get those trees and plant them sometime October. Is that where we at? Could somebody make that a motion, please?
How
So-
many is it? How many? It's two, right? Or three?
Two on
Two.
Broad Street, yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for the two empty tree pits on Broad Street in front of Crispy's to be replanted with the two tree species that are determined by Shirley and Bill. And that the tree committee will allocate funds to purchase those trees, and the DPW will be able to obtain and plant those.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Anybody against? All right, that passes. So my understanding of this motion is that we do not have to take another vote. That this can go forward based on Shirley's and Bill's decision.
Yep.
Okay,
Could I just add a related topic then? I would recommend if we do add that tree, if you and Bill do decide on that tree, we should probably add that to our list of recommended trees that we gave with our tree ordinance language, because that was not one of those on that original list that we got from DCR.
okay.
So we
Okay.
can, that we could vote on next time, but I just don't want to
Yeah.
forget that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, Paul, should we also take into account the tree in front of the bank on Summer Street, or no? On 104, there's an empty spot there too.
We can, I probably should be something separate though, I think.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just saying I walked by there a while back and I noticed it's been empty for a long time. That tree was, I don't know how long ago that tree came out. But
Where is it again, the exact location?
at the parking lot, right at the parking lot, the bank and
Oh,
Across from the bakery?
yeah, across,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's Summer Street.
summer.
My only recommendation would be potentially to wait until we confirm the limit of work for the Central Square Road reconstruction, because that will be reconstructing sidewalks. And if we are grabbing that intersection, that tree would get replaced as part of that project. And so I wouldn't want to put a tree in that's just going to come out in a year.
Good thought.
You make a very good point, Nicole. My sadistic side of me says, but by the time that's decided upon and built, we could plant a tree.
I know, all right. Well, I think but if the limit of work doesn't go that far, then we
I
should.
know. I'm just- You're right, okay. I just, things move very slowly at times. I mean, the
Yeah.
Cecil Group's recommendation for Central Square was 10 years ago. And we can see the progress, so that's me, anyway, all right. Okay. All right, anything else on tree replacement? All right, thank you, Shirley, for that recommendation. Just a quick update. Nothing, I think I mentioned this last time. I had discussions I had a discussion with Michael before he left in August regarding the tree warden and the tree ordinance. The tree ordinance is in progress of being looked at. The tree warden, he indicated to me, is moving along. It may not actually be in place until next year, but they have to change the code and various things. And I don't think he was trying to put me off. I think it is in place. And I think once we get an interim town manager that, we could find out where it's happening, what's happening. I'm more than 50% feeling that we will have a tree warden by spring sometime. Shirley?
I had the feeling when I was at the last meeting, or the meeting where the interim tree or the interim town manager was approved, that she was not going to do anything radical in terms of expenditures. And so I would be surprised if she would support pushing forward the salary of a tree warden.
We don't
Whatever.
know. All we can do is hope and do a little pushing, that's all. I mean, we either try to push it along or we don't do anything. I mean, either way. So there's no, in my mind, there's no harm in doing a little lobbying for the tree warden position. I did hear that Michael, before he left a 40-page instruction manual for the interim tree ward, for the interim town manager. 40 pages. So hopefully in that 40 pages, there's a tree warden in there. So all we have to do is pull it out and say, see? No, I think we just have to keep trying. That's all we can do. Okay. All right. Anybody else on that? And the tree ordinance, we'll just have to wait and see. Tree mitigation. We got to get this done. As I said before, according to Michael, simply having the planning board ask a developer for money offhand is not going to work. He said it's worked in the past, but it's not the way to do it. And there are legal implications there. So we need tree mitigation. Even I understand that some towns have 10 and 12 pages of tree mitigation. I think a formula would probably be the best thing. And I would like to see 2 or 3 people simply, and I'll help too, come up with something by the October meeting. Does that make sense or no? I know, Nicole, you have some formula, I believe, that is possible.
Well, Shirley found some examples of formulas that have been used in other municipalities for individual tree removal based on the diameter caliber of the tree.
Right.
Yep.
Can we set up a subcommittee that will meet maybe 2 times between now and October and come up with a recommendation? And I'll help. I'll be happy to sit on it. Shirley, go ahead, Mark.
Concern is that we try to come up with a formula that everybody can understand. Some of those that I've seen that are several pages long are very detailed, and most people who are in the business of removing trees and homeowners, etc., aren't going to bother with a whole lot of detail about how many square inches and how many dollars per inch and things like that are going to be involved. So I'm hoping that we can come up with something that is fairly comprehensive but understandable by tree removal people, by our tree warden and homeowners. And our biggest problem, I think, are homeowners. I can't tell you the number of times I've driven by homes where they are removing trees in their backyard, and you know that they haven't got any inclination of who they should have notified to do that. They just think, well, it's my backyard, I'll take them off. And 9 times out of 10, it's not their backyard. It's the unused lot behind them that they don't even know might be owned by somebody. So I think we need a healthy education, and to that effect, I was going to suggest that our fall forum might deal with how to educate the public and the professionals who are involved in this, in their responsibilities for trees, especially removal.
All right, I think there are two issues you brought up, Shirley. One, removal, I think, is in some ways separate from the tree mitigation. I mean, we need a formula. I like to move this along and get something approved, basically in the first stage anyway, for the planning board. So that when a developer comes before the planning board and they want to cut down 5 acres of trees, planning board can say, okay, you can cut them down, but here's the formula which you have to pay us for. I think I mean, going beyond that right now, I'm not sure we're capable of doing that. I just think that, you know, your point is valid, Shirley, but I just like to see a basic formula for the planning board so that tree removal we can bring some money in. And then on this aside to that, the tree committee does not have a budget. So what money we spend right now, we go down to zero, that's it at this point. So, I mean, anyway, somebody else.
I agree with you, Ray. Stick to the commercial properties for now, set up a formula. I think the residential is a slippery slope, and it's gonna take a long time to get there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we've got the fine. The fine will be in the tree ordinance, I believe.
right.
That if someone cuts down a public tree, they would own it. I feel like it's just a straight fine, though. I don't remember the monetary value. It wasn't substantial.
It was very substantial.
Oh, it was.
In our
Okay,
ordinance right
good.
now.
Yeah, so that would cover somebody cutting down something they don't own. And what the intent of what you've been asking is for us to give, like, it's gonna end up being some sort of a guidance document recommendation to the planning board in terms of giving them a formula for mitigation funds. I would recommend that maybe there is another part to that. If we are giving them this guidance document or memo or whatever it ends up being, I would like to recommend them starting with pushing back a little bit on the extent of clear cutting and cutting first, that these
Absolutely.
mitigation funds should be when, you know, when there is no other choice, when they actually, you know, obviously are permitted to clear all these trees because of their zoning, right? I'm allowed to build a building this big, so I can clear 3 acres because I can build a building that big. I mean, those type of things make sense, but I think I would love for them to first push back on some of the excessive clear cutting and cutting first, and then they could use this formula as a second resort. But I didn't want them to just think of it as, I know we would like the funding source, but I think hopefully maybe we can give them some guidance on, like, maybe some lower impact techniques that can be taken. You know, recommending that some developers, especially if there are, you know, some well-established canopy trees, especially along streets, that they tag those, they protect those. You know, I think that's all within what they're that are part of the subdivision plans or the planning board rules, that I don't know how much they have enforced.
Well, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think the planning board right now has the ability to do that.
Yes,
For instance, they can require that a landscape architect come in
yes,
and design what design a landscape that preserves trees. I mean, they can push back
Yep.
indirectly right now.
Okay.
I'm not sure how you can be able to write that into,
well, maybe it's just then it's maybe just the statement that
yeah,
when, you know, that when the trees can not be protected by low impact techniques, you know, that's the priority.
yeah, okay.
This mitigation formula is intended, you know, to guide this, you know, the planning board into, you know, a consistent, I guess, monetary value for the cutting of individual trees and or clear cutting. So I think we do need to kind of find some sort of cost per acre.
That's fine.
And maybe we see what was collected for the one on Bedford. as just a like just figuring out how many acres they clear cut, and for that, the amount that they provided, I think that the cost should definitely go up, because they got a pretty good deal, but that was the first time us ever collect, because of your work on the board, collecting, mitigation funds. So it might just be a good basis to see what that formula would have been, right? If we had a formula, how much did they pay per acre of clear cut?
Oh, boy.
Is
Well,
it like,
I don't know.
not-
I mean, I think I indicated to you that
Not-
I think that when the original solar farm came in on Bedford Street,
yep,
that they were willing to pay a lot more than I think a mitigation schedule would have. I mean, they,
okay,
when they originally came in, it first got me thinking about it. I said, how about $200,000? And they balked at that. And then we talked about it some more, and then I came back and I said, how about 75,000? And the guy said, oh, okay. It was just like that, literally. Okay. But again, what Michael's saying, you can't do it that way. That's not the proper way. So we do need.
Right,
mitigation. So Nicole, I think your point is well taken. If we have a statement that is added on to that schedule, and at some point, maybe we can modify this with a much more involved mitigation schedule. Right now, I'm just thinking of just getting a formula in place sometime this fall anyway. You know,
Right.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
Where is the outline for what the planning board can actually do, so that I can look at that? And know,
Well, it might, I'm not sure if it's in the subdivision control law. There is a part of the planning board bylaws that allow much more leeway with what is referred to as large projects. And they have, it's much more flexible in terms of the board's ability to determine what can be done, what cannot be done. I could look it up for you, sure, Pat, and send you something.
that
okay?
would be great. I would like to know what we can do
But
now.
you have to understand that a lot of it is, it's simply, it's not cut and dry. It's simply the planning board saying, we want you to do this. And the developer saying, is it worth fighting him or fighting the board on this?
Right, right.
It's not a cut and dry, like 5 points you have to, you're actually negotiating in many respects. All right, I'll try to get that to you.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, on the mitigation then, how do you want to do this? Do we want a separate little subcommittee to come up with that schedule by the next meeting, or how do we want to do it? Any suggestions?
I would hope that Nicole would be able to be on that.
Can't hear you, Shirley.
I would hope that Nicole would be able to be on that committee as she has in the past. And I would volunteer to be on it. And Nicole, are you only able to come to is there any day of the week that you could come to an afternoon meeting?
yes, Mondays.
Tell you what, why don't you, Nicole, why don't you and Shirley decide on a day you can meet, and I'll come also. I
Okay,
can. Okay, fair enough? Okay, just let me know.
yep, that sounds good. We
Okay.
honestly we're almost there. We have,
Okay, that's
yeah,
fine.
so we just need to kind of just finalize it.
10-minute meeting then. Right,
Well, it'll be an hour.
okay. Tree mitigation, we got, okay, recommended tree list, I don't see, we have one, we've already made a recommendation to the planning board that's in place. Is there urgency of doing it right now, or can we wait another month or two? Can't hear you, Shirley.
Why we can't wait, right, Pat?
I'm sorry, Shirley.
Is there any reason why we can't wait for a tree
Shirley, can't hear you.
Can't wait for a tree recommendation list?
Well, we've already presented one back in May.
Right,
Yeah,
that's in place. All right, why don't we do this? Why don't we, all of us, look at the list we have right now in place and see whether we want to change it and discuss it at the next meeting, okay? Okay. All right, new business. Nicole, Tree City. Paul, is that difficult we're gonna be in place with that? We have to get that in by the end of December, correct?
Yes. So I will start to organize, get the application going, and we'll need the exact same items we did from last year, which will make things much easier. And I will have to start just kind of reaching out with a few of the questions to confirm what we've done. That will probably be mostly from Paul. But we have exactly what we provided last year, so hopefully it's just an update of the dollar values and the numbers. And I would love to get those 2 trees in on Broad Street, because then we could say that we have planted
Great.
2, 3
One at the
there, the one at the school, the ones at the senior center. If we could get more than 10, that would be amazing. Because I felt almost sad writing that we planted like 3 trees last year.
I know. Yeah, I agree. The Senior Center hasn't moved along yet. There's no movement on that yet. Nothing's been planted there. We've allocated the money, but nothing's spent.
Okay, I can probably write that. I probably can write that we allocated the money or whatever,
Yeah.
so.
Paul, are we gonna be okay on money spent on trees?
I'll have to update everything. It's the calendar year, correct? No,
It is, yeah. So essentially, we were able to hit that number we needed, the 2% per capita, just with your receipts from your outsourcing the tree work. That was enough really to, I don't know if because none of the equipment or anything that we had discussed previously has been purchased, right? So we would be able to account for that.
I'll run it. I think we'll come in there, no problem, but I don't wanna say we're looking sure.
I'll dust off what you gave me last year as a starting point, so you can just kind of perhaps update that, or I know someone in your office helped you pull that together.
Sure,
I'll email you in the next couple weeks.
no problem.
Good, okay. I think I mentioned in the spring the possibility of a forum, and somebody mentioned it just now. And after the fact, my nephew emailed me a few weeks ago saying he and his wife thinking of coming out in the fall, and I thought he'd be good speaker. I mean, he's really good.
Be nice.
The problem is now they may not come. So I don't know. If we do a forum, we have to obviously get a speaker, and we can't assume my nephew's coming. And we have to decide pretty soon, because the library needs at least a month notice to reserve space there.
You have to get them to commit.
Let me throw in something else there. I think I told some of you that James has resigned. There's also, Michael did put in the new town code, which has not been voted upon yet it went through the first reading, but has not gone through the second reading yet. That the tree committee will have the ability to bring in a arborist or certified arborist or whatever outside the town of Bridgewater if we cannot find somebody in Bridgewater. So that will give us a much wider group of people to look for in terms of somebody to help us. If we do find somebody, and we had that one gentleman from the college before, and he spoke at the first forum, we could obviously use a person like that for a forum. I just bring it up to you, that's all, not with any, go ahead, Shirley.
Have to be so tight on this that it has to be an arborist or a certified arborist? Can it be somebody who teaches a course in that, for instance?
Shirley, I think the way the tree committee description is written, we have the option fudging it. In other words, I think it's a certified arborist or somebody with the qualifications of. So I think we're okay. In the bottom line is, I think once the town code is changed, it's up to us. Nobody's gonna say anything. Okay. Pat?
Right, I spoke with Mr. Ruley at that meeting at the Moakley. And he said that we have an arborist coming on at the end of September that we're sharing with Halifax.
What?
You
Yeah.
know, conservation agent, I think.
Oh, the Concom, okay. I was thinking it was an arborist. Because there are arborists in Halifax.
Hmm.
So it's the Concom, huh?
So we don't have a
Well, that
Concom
person,
agent?
but that person's qualifications, they could be, maybe, they could be an arborist as well as a wetland scientist.
Hmm,
Well, again, we had that gentleman, Ron Akchar, who spoke, the first speaker at the forum. I think he'd be willing to come back if we want him. I mean, or at least temporarily, somebody that could help us because we do need somebody.
you mean to hire? We could hire him?
No, he would just be a member of the board, that's all.
Oh, a member, okay,
Yeah. He'd be a voting member of this committee, that's all.
okay. But if that wasn't in our ordinance, we can still do that?
Right now, the way the town code is written, nobody on this committee, a voting member, has to be a town person.
Right,
The change will allow us, if we cannot find somebody as a resident of Bridgewater, we can bring somebody in from the outside, which will open up a lot of people for us. So, okay? All right, so forum, going back to that, I'm a little leery of scheduling a forum. If you want to do it, we can tell me. I mean, we can try, and in what context would we do it?
for the conser-
Originally, I was thinking of if my nephew could come, just put him in front of people and let them ask him all sorts of questions about trees. I like the idea of a forum because we get information going out, but also it's PR, and we could use PR. Speaking of which, let me just jump ahead. Josh just got an email from, Josh, you here?
Yes, I'm back.
Who's the counselor again?
Mary McGrath.
Why don't you tell the committee what transpired?
Oh, so Mary is going to be at Autumn Fest and she was able to secure a table just so that we could get some interest and outreach for the boards, committees, and commissions.
Oh, that's good.
So, I was thinking, why not? Why not, some couple of us on and off help maybe go to a table and just, try to get people to be interested in trees, so, yeah. All right. My main interest, okay, I'm sorry, forum. What do you want to do?
Can you hear me all right? Yes,
Now
no.
we can.
What I was going to suggest is that we, if we have one, whenever we have it next, one of the areas that I think is important is to educate the public about the value of trees and anything and everything to do with them, not only their value, but how to pick out trees, what sources are available, how to plant trees and so on. Our public is very ignorant about trees in general, and never mind what they might have as appropriate trees for their own properties. So that might be an area that we could enlighten and help people with.
Again, the question is, do you want a forum?
Would we wait until spring?
I definitely think we should do it in spring. I'm saying, do we want to do it now?
Oh,
There's no, I'm a little concerned about now because of, and I was all for it before. Because of time and getting somebody. That's all I'm concerned with. I mean, Jed, needs at least a month to schedule it. I'm doing something in October and he told me a month ahead, at least a month ahead of time that we have to schedule it. So, I mean, it would have to be, as early as the end of October, even November. Or the spring. It's up to you guys.
I would opt for the spring.
Anybody else? Okay, spring. All right, if I indicated to, some of you, at first I thought, the first year we did quite a bit. Now I'm not sure we're doing enough. Maybe it's just me. Or are we reaching the public as much as we
Not
can
at all.
be? How do you think we should we do a different approach to this committee? Just, I'm not implying anything. Just, what do you think? Any new ideas on how we should act as a committee? Now those, should we be, okay, Pat?
If we could do more social media, that would reach the general public. I know that, a couple of the Facebook pages have thousands of residents. Some are from out of town, of course, but they don't know any of our regulations or not to cut trees down. Forums are great. And we could do the exact same forum every year because we're going to get different people.
Social media.
Mhm.
Well, Josh, still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Do any committees or do any town officials do anything on social media? Is that proper?
So I can, similar to when you had the last forum, post, notices that, on our Facebook page. I would recommend, rather than, doing it through your personal Facebook pages, to just send everything to me so I can post it publicly. That way, you guys are protected and it isn't your accounts that are sharing that information. But we can, we have a Twitter account, an Instagram, and a Facebook that we can add it to. And then if, I know there are some private, citizen pages out there. What they can actually do is go to the public Facebook and just share that information that way. And that's honestly what our IT department recommends.
You mean the town of Bridgewater Facebook page?
I don't know all of them. I'm not too familiar with all the different private Facebook pages, but they can go right to our public Facebook page, and
Would-
then there's a share link, and it
Right.
share to their page as well. So
Sounds good to me.
Hmm.
Being somebody who has no idea what social media does, and I'm not involved in it at all. And
yeah, that just comes at the recommendation
I
of our
don't
IT
intend to
department.
be, by the way. That's a great suggestion, Pat. That may mean us coming up with what to put on social media. In other words, what are we going to be doing?
Probably promoting our, any regulations that we think would apply to the homeowner.
Yep,
Advertising our forums.
yep.
What else?
Just maybe just helpful hints,
Mhm.
Remember at the forum, one of our speakers said you should never, I think it's called volcanoing, put a volcano of mulch around the tree.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, there's a house, if you go into West Bridgewater going towards 28, a new house, the nursery folks who, the landscaper, have two volcanoes, and I just
Oh,
want to
yeah.
I just want to stop and say, hey, I
Yeah,
mean, things
that's
like
a,
that, we can put on social media.
that's a definite no.
I think that's a good idea. We need a subcommittee. That, obviously you're on it.
Thanks. Mm,
I'll help, even though I don't, I'll help that. Anybody else? Well,
We need a high school kid.
no, what we need is ideas, and then we'll just give it to Josh, and he'll take care of it. No, I think, why don't we do this? Why don't we, why don't we all funnel our ideas about what could go on social media to Pat? And I'll sit down with her and we can come up with, maybe some general recommendations, at the next meeting. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Anybody else? What else can we do? I think social media is a great idea. Are we doing enough to reach the public again? You know, one thing that bothers me is we're not planting enough trees. Seems to me we should be planting more trees. Do we, question is, you know, how we have to, we haven't really identified spots which need trees. Paul, I think you mentioned before, there are a lot of dead trees that can come down, I suppose, and plant some new trees. But I just, you know, when we, at the end of the year, when we say we planted 1 or 2 trees, it's a little bit disconcerting to me. How should
I
we?
mean, in all honesty, the street trees along Main Street, Broad Street, Summer Street, there's probably a dozen anyway in that stretch that are dead, dying, been ripped out, knocked over. That are, you know, pretty easy locations right there.
Okay, do you want to try to identify places? Paul, I mean, if you were to be asked right now to identify 5 places which need new trees, could you do it right away?
Okay. Well, I couldn't give you the exact address, but I know on Main
No.
Street there's a handful.
Now, Ray,
Yeah,
Shirley and I did a tour for the BIA last year for spots we thought could use trees or we could take advantage. I think we were going to put the Herbie trees there. And that hasn't come to fruition because the Herbies weren't able to be planted this year or in the near future. So we have a list already, but I'm not sure. What do you think, Shirley? Is that,
I think we can easily find 5 trees or 5 areas to replant trees that have been taken down and not replaced. You talk about the one by the bank, there's one in front of the CVS parking lot, or 2, I think, that came down from there. And they were big old trees. So just around the center of town, I'm sure we can find easily 5 places to plant trees.
and is that something Paul and the DPW can handle? I know they're short-staffed and,
I mean, 4 or 5 trees isn't gonna make or break us. I think we can get that done.
okay.
If you ask me to plant 40 trees, we'd have a different story, but
let's compromise on this. Can we identify 2 or 3 spots for the next meeting to plant trees?
That's easy.
well, like you said, the one in front of the bank, kind of across from Lucky Star on Summer Street. There's that one that's missing. There's another one on Broad Street that's missing, maybe near the Gottschalk's building. Of course, there's the 2 we're gonna plant, and I know certainly on Main Street, between High Street and say the Salvation Army, there's 1 or 2 missing.
What were those trees originally? What are those trees on the Main Street, Paul?
There was some cherry trees, and I'm sure Shirley would know the species better.
Yeah,
I've got a inventory of the trees that are planted on Main Street. And most of them are either cherry. There are about 3 or 4 different species altogether. We came to the agreement quite a while ago, based on the history of elm trees, that you don't just plant a single variety anymore, because if something happens to that variety, then you wipe out a whole forest of trees.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I have the list of the trees that we planted on Main Street, for instance.
would it be, would a simple thing for us to do is decide at the next meeting to plant, say, 4 trees on Main Street? With recommendations of what trees? Okay? All right,
So who's going to do that, Paul?
well, we have to give them recommendations of what trees, we have to vote to as you're saying, we could still plan at the end of October, right? So surely you're involved with Main Street. Maybe you could, again, with Bill, you know, just decide what trees, and, we'll plant more trees. Okay?
I'll talk with Paul about the ones that, if he can give me the addresses of trees that are down, I'll give him the species that we should replace them with. How's that?
Yeah, I believe near Friendlies too, near those houses that burnt down or abandoned.
I hesitate doing, anything more on Broad Street because we don't know what and when the development is going to go on down there. And they're talking about apartment houses and
Yeah,
more businesses and so on, so I'm holding off on Broad Street, but I think Main Street is a good likelihood.
Yeah, I agree. In particular, Paul, with Broad Street, hopefully the planning board will simply require that the developer put in trees and sidewalks and so forth there, that they pay for it. That should be a no-brainer. They're doing it on, the Perkins property. They're gonna take care of everything out front there. So,
And there was also the, I think we have previously spoken about those,
you muted yourself, Nicole.
oh, I think we've also spoken about Mount Prospect Street along the middle school. There was potentially also a location.
right, right.
Speaking of which, as an aside, if any of you been over to, Stiles and Hart,
No,
Stiles and Hart, the town got a grant from the federal government and our CPC funds. And they've redone the parking lot. They put a parking lot in there. There's a paved walkway back there. And the trails are improved with bridges. I went there this morning. It's very well done. It's really nice to see. Federal, local partnership. And they've improved that whole thing. The trail still as hard as it's been before. It's short,
wonderful,
but you
wonderful.
gotta be careful. But it's worth going over there.
Yeah, there's still more to come too.
Oh yeah, what are they gonna do?
And it's not quite finished. It's eventually gonna loop. You see how they made two parking areas, one at the old Chinese restaurant and one.
Right, one's not done yet, yeah.
Right,
You're gonna be able to go in from the northernmost one, loop through the woods and come out somewhere down by the Chinese restaurant.
Right, because right now, if you go in the northern one, there's a regular loop that comes back to the trail. If you go towards the Chinese restaurant, it dead ends
Yeah,
by the river behind McDonald's.
yeah.
But I think it will come out to where you're saying, Paul, yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they
Right.
have 2 kiosks there, which will be nice. That'll be great.
Well, it's just nice, it's nice to see that, the town is, I'm not sure who started this, but it's just nice to see a area in town that's just been improved upon to walk and just take a look at the birds and so forth. It's just good. Mm. All right, anybody else? I think it's been productive. I'll try to write a summary, change it if I make a mistake on anything. Any going once?
One
Sure.
other thing, Paul, will you give me the addresses of 4 trees on Main Street that we can replace? And I'll tell you which varieties we can use there or have used around those trees. And what do we do from there? Do we go ahead and order them or what's the procedure then? Once we know what trees to plant and where, how do we move it forward?
I would think when we buy the other two, we should buy 6 with that same allocation of money.
Not gonna be 6, we're not gonna add crabapple trees to Main Street.
No, but at the same
Our
purchase,
part.
you can buy them all.
All right, anybody else? Make a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Is there a second? No, you want to stay?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye,
Very good. I think it's been a productive meeting. Thank you, folks. Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks,
I'll send out
everyone.
a summary of who does what and change it if you want. Thanks.
Thank you.